The Fed15 podcast is presented by Serving Those Who Serve, a fiduciary, fee-based financial planning firm serving federal government employees and retirees all over the country. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be taken as financial advice. All listeners should consult their personal advisors before taking any action. The opinions expressed by our hosts are their own and do not reflect the views, policies, or position of either Raymond James or Serving Those Who Serve. Hi, folks. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Fed15 podcast, presented by Serving Those Who Serve. Each week, we'll discuss the latest news and info that feds need to know in 15 minutes or less, sometimes more. And so whether you are a seasoned federal employee or whether you're just starting out in your career, Fed15's got you covered. Grab your coffee, grab your green juice. If you're Dan, kick back and we will tell you what you need to know but might have missed. We are, of course, your hosts, Katelyn Murray and
I'm Dan Sipe.
The lovely Dan Sipe.
I believe, Katelyn, this is airing on Halloween. So
it is.
There you go.
It is airing on Halloween. I'm so sad that I did not think to come in costume. We'll just have to hit it up for Halloween 2024. Sure.
I can always drop into my Dracula.
Yeah.
It's one of the many people living in my head.
Love it. Maybe our editor can put little horns on us or little fangs on us. We'll leave it up to him.
But before we get there, all right, Katelyn, you got to get me out of something.
Yeah.
You got me into it. You got to get me out of it.
Okay.
So I'm glad I watched it. You know, I've watched Ahsoka.
Reviews.
Okay, and I believe they have mucked up the works for the evil admiral, but they're stuck on that rock on the other side of nowhere.
Yeah. And
the high-tech hermit crabs, you know, they can do an awful lot, but I don't think they can build a jump gate. So how are they getting back, Katelyn? Come on.
High-tech hermit crab is going to be the name of my band, I think.
Oh,
I love that.
And I know Anakin's there watching over them, but there's too many questions for you on this one.
Yeah, it's interesting. We've been set up for a second season. I think I'm very glad that they kind of pulled up because I was worried the first 3 or 4 episodes were very drawn out. It felt like the first 3 episodes honestly could have been 1 episode. And that was the critique from a lot of the community. Star Wars, of course, if you're unfamiliar with what in the heck we're talking about. But yeah, I think we're set up for a second season. I'm just mad that I haven't gotten the Kanan Jarrus cameo. That's what I was really hanging in for. But I'm excited for season 2. I think, I don't know. You never know with Star Wars. Probably some Jedi who we thought was long dead is not dead and we'll bring them back. Who knows?
Or we better hope those whales migrate.
Pergil, yeah. Yeah. Isn't it interesting? Because Star Trek had a whole thing with whales too, right? The Star Trek movie where they save, Voyage Home. They go save the whales, and now we have Pergil whales in Star Wars. It's the whole thing. Yep. Sci-fi and whales.
Indeed.
There's a thesis.
Although the Star Wars whales are a lot faster.
Fair. That is fair.
I noticed that. Well, I could do this stuff all day, but our feds are waiting for stuff, and you've got some information on pay raise possibilities, locality changes. What you got?
I do. So I have some, you know that we keep our finger pretty much on the pulse when it comes to pay raises around these parts for our feds. The 5.2% that we had covered, a couple weeks ago, it was pretty much set in stone until we had the whole speaker shutdown crisis that happened in Congress, obviously. Obviously, everybody probably is aware we've got a stopgap in place that allows us to continue functioning, allows us to stave off shutdown. That deadline on that is November 17th. So The government will shut down if either the stopgap or 12 appropriation bills aren't passed by the November 17th deadline. It's possible maybe shutdown could inspire the White House or Congress to approve a higher 2024 pay raise. That maybe that number could be a little squishy. Couple lessons from the 2019 shutdown. There wasn't a raise, actually, planned until Congress retroactively approved a 1.9% raise when the government reopened after the shutdown in February of 2019. So if I hope not. But if we had something similar happen in 2023 going into 2024, would a retroactive raise have any impact on retirement calculation of somebody who had retired during the shutdown? Good question.
Gotcha.
Right? If you're waiting until the end of the year to retire, might be a good idea to maybe submit your retirement application. You do not have to expedite your retirement date, but you could expedite your application submission.
Good idea.
In order to get that in before a government shutdown. Just as a reminder to everybody, I think we covered this a couple of weeks ago, but OPM stays open during a shutdown, but your HR with your employing agency could not, obviously. So there isn't necessarily a provision in place to keep the people who are reviewing your paperwork at your agency before sending it off to OPM up and running. So what that means effectively for you is that getting that retirement paperwork in, making sure it's reviewed, any errors that need to be corrected by your employing agency are corrected, and then kind of forwarded on to OPM prior to any potential shutdown is a really, really good idea for you. So if you haven't, if you're thinking that you might retire at the end of the year and you haven't talked with somebody, it's probably a good idea. If you don't already have an advisor in place to kind of talk through these things with, probably a good idea to meet with an advisor. And we know some really good Fed-focused advisors that you can meet with here at Serving Those Who Serve. So if you're interested in that, check out the link in the description.
Gotcha.
We do have a little bit of an update on locality changes. OPM did announce that Clallam and Jefferson counties will be added to the Seattle-Tacoma designated area. So good for folks who are kind of living in that area. We're unclear if the change is going to be implemented in time for the 2024 pay schedule. So there's some things that are up in the air there. Locality pay, just to kind of as a refresher for folks, this was enacted in 1990 with the goal of kind of keeping the gap between private and public sectors at less than 5%. It's a pretty lofty goal. To attain this goal today, it would cost the government around $22 billion.
Wow.
So there is quite a gap there. But, for those in the Seattle-Tacoma area, definitely be on the lookout for that. And obviously, we will keep you up to date if there are any kind of announcements in that realm.
Gotcha. And, Katelyn, while we're in this little bit of uncharted territory where we've had a speaker removed and don't have a speaker right now, there's a lot of stuff that's getting backed up, as you correctly identified, that pay raise. Not only that, but pay raise for our dedicated men and women in the armed forces. Mm-hmm. Because one of the appropriation bills that they can't pass is the NDAA.
Yeah.
And so the last time the NDAA wasn't passed by the beginning of the calendar year was 1963.
Wow.
Okay. We are returning to some precedents that I don't think we want to set. But you'll be pleased to know that the Congress, in the meantime, is focusing on some things like hitting feds with $1,000 or up to a year in prison for disclosing they have a security clearance in a public conversation.
Wow.
Katelyn, I've been working for feds for almost 40 years. I don't know who has security clearances. Okay, I'm as close to a relationship as they get. So I don't think we got a whole lot of feds out there going, hey, know what I have? Security clearance. I don't think that's happening, Fortunately, this is not expected to pass. But, hey, folks, let's get a speaker. Let's pass a budget before we start zeroing in on a dedicated civilian workforce. This just makes my head hurt. Yeah. If I got to come back to this again, the black T-shirt's coming out. Yeah. Just telling you. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, also, they are looking into some additional tracking for remote work. I think that's kind of the nature of the beast. We're very proud of the fact that we have a fantastic team at Serving Those Who Serve, and we do an incredible amount of remote work to the extent of regulatory and legal permissions to do so. But we have internal checks and balances as well. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. So on October 5th, OPM reminded agencies about the new requirements for monitoring teleworkers, tracking how many times employees log on and how long they're on for. And there was a congressional hearing on telework and federal government scheduled, but that was canceled due to the shutdown showdown.
Well,
So personally, and Katelyn, you know this, I believe people are good. I believe people want to work. I believe people want to do their jobs well. So I think if trust is left there in devices, more often than not, they're going to do it. And I think Uncle Sam would do well to embrace that. I think some of the top companies in the world are embracing that. And I think it's just healthy.
Yeah. I mean, I do. I think, there is incredible value in leveraging technology to allow us all to live better lives. I mean, that's what it's for, right?
Sure.
We should leverage tech and tools responsibly and prudently in order to give people freedom and flexibility. There's so many conversations we can have about, I know, particularly women in the workforce, right? Where you're wearing multiple hats, you've got multiple roles in the family, and you also have a full-time job, and just being able to be flexible and to kind of, work around some of the other obligations that you have is really helpful. And, nobody loves commuting on 495 if you're in the DMV like us.
Absolutely. So. Absolutely.
So I definitely think that there's an incredible value in leveraging tech prudently and responsibly, and with those checks and balances too that we talked about.
And trusting your people.
Yeah.
Trusting your people.
That's the big thing.
Yeah.
That's the big thing.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Well, I think that's everything.
For the first time ever, we're ahead.
Running a bit early.
Our ish is on the other side of ish.
But don't worry, folks. We'll be back next week to bring you all the latest updates on the information you need to make informed decisions as a career Fed for your personal and financial well-being.
Absolutely. And make sure to subscribe to this podcast on our YouTube channel, Fed Life, so that you never miss an episode. Please do remember to share it with your friends and colleagues. We are also on Spotify. If you are kind of an audio only listener, make sure that you subscribe there as well. By subscribing, you will get automatically notifications about every new episode that we publish. We publish every Tuesday, like clockwork. So definitely look out for us there. If you're hankering for some more Dan and Katelyn, you can access our full catalog of content there as well on YouTube and Spotify.
Absolutely. And for more information on the topics that we cover in these, be sure to check out the blog at blog.stwsserve.com. Subscribe to the newsletter, the weekly serving. Then you'll get the latest and greatest delivered to your inbox every single week so you don't miss anything.
Absolutely. And for those who want to dive even deeper into learning about federal benefits and financial planning for Feds, we encourage you to join us for one of our complimentary webinars. We have coming up Understanding FERS Retirement on November 2nd from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. It's going to be an afternoon session. And then on November 8th, we have a session on FEGLI from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then we have a really great tax planning webinar for Feds. That's going to be November 14th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Mark your calendars. There's some really good information there as far as tax planning goes. And of course, if you would prefer a one-on-one approach, if you're kind of looking for a Fed-focused financial firm, please feel free to reach out to our team directly for a financial planning consultation. You can find us at askstws@stwserve.com.
Indeed. So thanks, everybody, for listening to the Fed15. I'm Dan Sipe.
And I'm Katelyn Murray.
And we
will
see you next week.
See you next week. We'll workshop it.
Indeed.